So, like, what would you say that for anyone newly arriving in Canada, like, what basic family law concepts should they understand right away?
Inform people when I do presentations in the community that they should be willing to let go of their own mindset and understanding of what a marriage should look like, of what the roles of in a marriage should be like, and what the outcome of a separation could be. When people separate, what we do is, if they don't have money, there's legal aid. Legal aid can approve someone for a certificate for up to like 20, 30 hours, and legal aid pays them a year, and then they go into a payment plan with the client. Most people misunderstand what the rights and obligations could be from a separation or in the event of a separation.
To just shift the conversation a little bit, people move here and sometimes like one partner's status is dependent on the other partner's status. So, like, say the husband moved here first to kind of try to settle things, and maybe after a year, the family, like the wife and kids, he invites them and they
Yeah,
come in, and so their application is very very tight. Like their application for
yeah,
citizenship
sponsorship.
thank you. One partner sponsors the other
Yeah,
partner and the kids, and so in situations where like that where like they're literally tied together in a way that like their residency in a whole country depends sort of
yeah.
on that.
It's
How would you
interdependent.
It's
Yeah.
interdependent, yeah. So how would you recommend then, like, if that relationship ends up not working out, maybe there's abuse, neglect, whatever,
Yeah.
abandon, like the person just picks up and goes to another province or,
You know,
like,
that
what
means
would
you can
you
be somewhere.
somewhere, what would you say would be the way to move forward? Like, what would you recommend? What would you advise, say that this wife in this scenario who is like, I can't, like, this is not the life I envision for myself, my kids, I have to leave. Maybe it's because of abuse for whatever reason. How would you recommend that they go about that? Because sometimes people stay because they feel like they have no choice because this person sponsored them. And sometimes that element of power and control gets into some people's head, and then they
Yeah.
feel like they can treat the other person anyway,
Yeah.
and they have no choice but to like
Yeah.
accept it. So what
Yeah.
would you say to that?
That question, and everything that you kind of put into it takes us back to your previous questions regarding the misconceptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since we're talking particularly about immigrant families rather than
Mm-hmm.
those who were born here, we're talking about first generation immigrants, like,
Yes.
yeah, that they just moved here, newcomers ish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the greatest misconceptions are in the immigrant communities is whoever calls the police first is going to have an advantage. That is no longer proven to be true because
Mm.
authorities have seen a lot of things that have backfired where someone called the police. And when they do that due diligence later in terms of investigations, they've come to realize that some allegations, a high level of it is false. So now there's a lot of things that are put in place to ensure that the process of an arrest and the process of taking someone into custody and all of those things when another person phones, it's highly investigated before steps are taken. The
Okay.
second one is this aspect of immigration when one person sponsors the other. And most times one person has to sponsor the other person
Mhm.
because maybe the husband or the wife has certain criteria that will put them at an advantage of being the primary applicant of the application compared to the other person, right? For example, a couple living in Nigeria or Cameroon, the husband is working in a bank or a high-paying job, and the wife is a homemaker. If they have to migrate to Canada, the checklist items will favor the husband because of his financial resources, his work experience, education, and all of that, right? So that would automatically make the wife a secondary applicant, and then of course the children are dependent, so they will come with both parents regardless, as long as they're under the age of 18. If they come together, one person is still going to be the primary applicant. But if, say, the husband came first or the wife came first, and then years after they sponsor the other person to Canada, there is still that connection. When somebody sponsors a spouse, they do sign an undertaking as part of the family sponsorship process. And even when they sponsor a child. So for a spouse, there's an undertaking of 3 years, meaning that that undertaking will require you to be responsible for the other person for up to 3 years during that stay here in Canada. If they do take any social assistance from the government or any form of assistance from the government, it will be deducted from your pay because you are responsible for them. If they get into trouble, or any criminal activity, you could be brought into it because you have that responsibility for them. Yeah. If you sponsor a child, the undertaking lasts for up to 10 years because I remember my parents brought me over. So those are the responsibilities that come with sponsoring someone to Canada, particularly if it's a spouse or a child, right? And even if it's a common law partner, because we understand Canadian immigration system allows for common law partners, meaning that you resided together, you cohabited in, outside of Canada for a long period of time. You're not legally married, but you have an ongoing cohabitation relationship. And even if you don't have that ongoing cohabitation relationship, there's what we call conjugal partners, meaning that you have a long-term exclusive relationship. And that can be proven with maybe you guys on the list, something. All those 3 categories are listed on immigration website if somebody's interested in applying. But we'll go with marriage. Say the husband brings the wife and the kids over to Canada. If they come at the same time, all of them are trying to settle. So there is no really advantage to one person because they're new to the country. But if the husband was here first and has kind of established themselves, then when the wife and the children come, the relationship doesn't work out by whatever reason, right? At that point, the wife could feel like, if I leave, I can be blamed, or maybe I will lose every right because he brought me here. Maybe he will withdraw my sponsorship and stuff like that. No. No, it would
Really?
happen. So when you sponsor a spouse to Canada, and that person comes here, they will come as a permanent resident, landed immigrant, right? Because you went through the application while they were outside, they came now, they're a permanent resident. As a permanent resident, they have a right that is very distinct from your marital roles and responsibilities. Because family law and immigration law is not the same thing.
Right.
Those are 2 different aspects of human existence that are governed by different principles and statutes. The regulatory processes are different. So regardless of who sponsors who, it doesn't give that person an advantage over the other person. You cannot maltreat them. You cannot financially abuse them. You cannot deprive them of any legal entitlements. When people separate, whether both of them are refugee status people, whether both of them are permanent resident, or both of them are citizens in Canada, the legal principles in family law are applied the same, regardless of immigration status. So if someone is concerned that immigration status could be revoked because they want to be separated from the other person due to abuse, no, it's not a concern at all. I did speak about this one time on I think it was August or September during our Launch and Learn through Ruth's house. This came up as a question from one of the attendees. No, it's not a ground for someone to maltreat you. And if you were to separate from that person, it will not lead to revocation of your status in Canada. The court doesn't take into consideration your immigration status in Canada to determine whether you should get spousal support or not. It's basically the same principle. If you are married, meaning that you have a marriage certificate, no, can we stay? I paid something on your head and stuff like not traditional marriage. You went to the city hall and you got married. You have that marriage certificate. You can show me. It meaning that you can get a divorce in Canada, because if you're not married under the civil process, like city hall or court, you cannot get a divorce from the court. But you can sponsor somebody to Canada, even though you are not married in court. Right? So you see how different those processes are. Immigration is totally different from the family court system, which is why they have categories of relationship. In family law, we have common law, we have marriage, we have adult dependent partners. Now, what I'm saying is, or trying to say is, regardless of your status, the family law principles are applied the same. The only circumstances that will matter are those circumstances that are related directly to the roles that each party took up during the marriage or the relationship, in terms of caring for the kids, involvement with the kids, decision-making for the kids, whether one person was a homemaker and the other person was financially responsible for the family, and also like family law, occurrence of family violence in the relationship, and then those circumstances that are directly related to the relationship, not whether one person is an immigrant or permanent resident or Canadian citizen. No, we don't look at that. It's not an aspect that is reviewed under the Divorce Act. It's not an aspect that is reviewed under the Family Law Act, and it's nowhere mentioned in the Family Property Act, which will rely on to divide property. So I've had other communities as well asking that questions, Asian communities, particularly those who immigrate from India, because we have that very common as well. And I'm like, no, if he sponsor you to Canada and you're here, the immigration part has ended. Your rights as a spouse or as a common law partner is maintained, regardless of your status. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You don't know how many people you just saved with that information, because like some people literally feel like they have no choice, that this is their life now.
No, they don't have a choice.
And sometimes, like, I know of a situation where this one, you know how people marry for papers? Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that? You know how people get married for papers where, say, I'm living here. I go to Nigeria now. It's December time. I go to Nigeria for 30 December. I meet a man. I fall head over heels in love, and he knows I'm in Canada, and he's in Nigeria, and it's a distance thing, and he's like, "I love you. You know what I mean? You're the apple of my eyes." The love bombing will be real. Anyway, long story short, they get married, and the woman is hopeful about their lives together, or their life, united together. And then she, starts to process papers for him to come here. And then he gets here, and then, the mask is off, and she realizes that he's all in this for papers, and there are countless situations like this even here in Canada, within African communities, within all sorts of, they're even like, I don't know if you heard the time that this term visa bros, whereas they'll go to like Thailand and like Vietnam or some of these countries, because the women are more because the women are more subdued, like they're more submissive and humble, and then the women come here, and after a year or two they start to get smart. They start to see that, wait, you don't have control over me. I have options, but I mean, those situations are quite different. But like, going back to the first scenario I shared, where you bring this person here, and now he's your responsibility for 3 years. He lied. He said, oh, once he gets here, he's going to get a job, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and then he gets here and he's a couch potato. because you're the breadwinner. According
Yeah.
to whatever you signed, you're responsible
Yeah.
for him for 3 years. So he
Yeah.
feels like he doesn't need to do anything, and he doesn't take care of the home. So a part of that, I guess, would be obtaining by trickery, which is like he lied about this
Yeah.
is what I'll do when we get married. This is, I know you spent so much money on the wedding. I'll pay you back. I'll do whatever I can to support my family.
All
Like, is
lies.
it possible? All lies. Is it possible then for the person who initially did that application to like cut it short and call immigration, or I guess maybe this doesn't really pertain now to family law. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm just throwing this scenario at you.
Yeah.
But is it something where one person, the person that initiated the sponsorship, can try to cut it off and just be like, this is not the person I thought I got married to. He is here already, but I want him to go, like, he came here by trickery. He lied to me, and so I applied for him to come here, and I no longer want this. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, do you know
Yeah.
if that's a thing that a person can do, where it's like, oh, if they lie to you and you've already applied, but they get here and you see that, oh, it was all a lie, you can rescind the application or rescind your sponsorship or something like that. That's one. And then the second one is like the visa bros situation. And by the way, guys, like, all the information here, we're in Canada. This is all Canadian information. This is all like, focused to the Canadian system. So if you're listening from outside of Canada, thank you for being here. But this may not. Please consult a lawyer. Consult a lawyer in your country, in your city. But yeah, Lucy, like, what do you have to say about that?
Now, in regards to the first part, where one person sponsors another person, and then when party A, the sponsored person, gets here, the behavior changes. It's a very tough situation, because I know a lot of people that have experienced that, even like outside of my professional dealings.
Circle.
It's tough in the sense that when we look at legal actions, there has to be a cause of action before you come to the courts, or try to seek a relief through the courts or under the law. There has to be a legality that you're looking to repair, or there's a legality that you're looking to enforce, right? Which is why when people separate, that's a legality. Because there was a marriage or a relationship, if the parties were not already married, and now they've separated. Separation is a legal occurrence, meaning that the marriage is breaking down, and that relationship that existed, whether through marriage or not, has broken down, and the ongoing existence of those two people, including the children, needs to be addressed. If they had property is a legal thing. It has to be subject to legal principles on how to divide it. Parenting is a legal right, because it comes from that right and obligation. Child support is a legal obligation. Spousal, the same. So you are addressing those legalities, which is why you have the option of going through the lawyers and the legal system, including the courts. But when it comes to behavior, behavior could lead to the rise of a legal issue, meaning that someone's behavior could lead to a rise of a separation. And through that separation, you have those other legalities that I mentioned earlier. But the actual behavior itself is not really within the confines of the legal system.
No way.
So I'm going to clarify that. If someone, say you and I get married, and your behavior towards me is so bad, that's behavior. I can't really go to the court and say, oh, Sarah treats me so badly. She's really a mean person, so I should get proper. I cannot really enforce any right from your behavior in that sense. I can say we should go to counseling. I can take you to marriage therapy or whatever. I can decide to leave you and move on with my life because it's behavior. Which is like psychologists, counselors, and stuff, they have jobs because their career is dealing with behavior.
Right.
The scenario that you painted, where whether it's the man or the woman who sponsored someone. And when they were going through the startup, it was so lovey-dovey. And then they're like, oh, this person is so the one. I should sponsor them to Canada. Oh my God, I found my heart, my dreams, blah, blah, blah. All
My
of those things that we
soulmate,
go
my
through.
soulmate.
We're
Yeah.
soulmate. Even if it's a dusty, you don't care because you're making
Dusty.
like
Yeah.
enough money here and you feel like you can bring that dusty here and clean them up. But that dusty is also targeting you. Right? And
Oh yeah.
the thing is, when you travel outside of Canada, exchange rates can make you a really rich person. But when you bring that person here, they might think you're not that rich based on the lifestyle in Canada. So they might just be seeing another, prospect that is more financially viable, which could influence their behavior towards you and even make them to leave the relationship. However, if that becomes a situation where the marriage was completed, you sponsor the person to Canada, you continue to be with that person, you've signed an undertaking under the immigration sponsorship to be responsible for this person for up to 3 years, and then you find out that behavior is really contrary to what they had portrayed earlier. You have to ask yourself questions like, what am I willing to take from this person, to tolerate and stuff? If that was somebody that was married to you and you voluntarily sponsored them, meaning at the time of the sponsorship, the documents that were completed, in those documents, you swore and signed that, I know this person, I've known them, we love each other, I believe that they're my spouse, all of those things. You can't go back to the immigration government department and say, I don't think they are the one for me anymore. Because when it comes to marriage, and I think more people are becoming aware of this. I will always say it in my presentations, when it comes to marrying somebody, it's not about love. Marriage is a legal contract in first instance. So there is no way under the law or anywhere, whether it's Nigerian law or Canadian or British, where it says the marriage is valid because there was love. No, when you look at the marriage, it's a legal contract, which is why even the history of marriage never stemmed from I love you, you love me, forget Romeo and Juliet. It's a legal contract. People used to get married for transactional purposes because one wealthy family wants to build a relationship with another wealthy family. So they bring two people to get married to create that connection and the ongoing generational wealth. So in what universe should people be relying on only love to marry somebody? Right? The Canadian law, for a marriage to be valid, the people have to be over 18 years or older. At the time of the marriage, they have to be of sound mind, meaning that they were not influenced by drugs or alcohol. They knew exactly what they were doing. They have to be witnesses, at least 2 witnesses present. So that is what makes a marriage valid. And as long as those things were shown, the marriage is known to be valid. Particularly if you consummated the marriage after, meaning that after you got signing the documents, you went and had some intercourse or something. So at that point, it's hard to go back and say the marriage is not valid anymore. You're headed for a divorce. That's the only option. Now, back to your scenario. If somebody was experiencing something, unfortunately for them, they're hooked because they got married to this person out of their free will. They were not under duress. Yes, the person may have masked or disguised their behavior. And behavior is not a legal premise. I can be a rude person, but I never break the law. Right. You get? I can be a very mean person, but I'm very straightforward. I won't even get a traffic ticket. So those are 2 aspects of human existence and 2 different things. If that person's behavior changed, it doesn't remove the validity of the marriage unless the person who sponsored them can show that there was an aspect of fraud. Meaning that when you are getting married to this person, Maybe they lied about their identity. Maybe you discover some name that they had before and it's not the name that they gave to you. Those things.
What if
Or,
they've been married before? Like if they are in a marriage and they lied
yeah,
to you to get married to you, is that a...
yes, if they were not divorced from that person, right? And that has to be like a legal marriage, not that they did they had a
traditional?
concubine or had a traditional marriage, because then the law is like, okay, there's no grounds for voiding your marriage, given that the other marriage was not under the legal part of it. So
Right.
if you marry the first time in court and you don't get divorced, you cannot marry again. If you do marry again, maybe in another country or so, the second marriage is void if both marriages were conducted under the
The
law.
legal system.
Yes. So that's why you see most people who have more than one wife, only one person can be married under the law. The other people are traditional or custom, because you cannot have two people getting married. I mean, you cannot marry more than one person under the legislations, right? It has to be one person. We never saw Regina Daniels go to Civil Hall and sign. She went to custom because, yeah. So the person cannot say, I'm going to end this marriage because the behavior has changed. The other person who was sponsored will say, no, this is a valid marriage. We got married. You sponsored me. You told Immigration Canada that our marriage was valid. I'm here. You're responsible for me for up to 3 years. If after those 3 years you want to kick me out, well, good for you. You can kick me out. But at this point, you're stuck with me. And if I go get social assistance because I want to piss you off or make you suffer, the government will take it back from you. I'm your responsibility. I don't have to do any work.
Oh my God.
People have to do that research and due diligence before they enter into legal contracts, marriages, aka. A marriage is a legal contract. So most people get stuck. I've seen it in my work. They come to me and they're like, I brought this woman over and she's a different person. I'm like, I'm so sorry. This is what I'm going to tell you. So by the time I'm done telling them, they're like, oh my God, what do I do? I said, you can file for a divorce if you want to. And then they're like, what happens to the immigration undertaking that I signed? Right? Because that's another aspect of it. I'll be like, okay, at this point, the marriage is not working. You cannot come and kill yourself. So, yes, you have this thing that is hanging over your head in regards to an undertaking that you signed for them. And if they were to do anything, of course, you'll be responsible. But that's not 100% straightforward. If I sponsor someone as a spouse and they are dependent on me by that undertaking, meaning that I'm liable for them, they have a responsibility to stand up for themselves as well. If they were to do anything to put me in trouble, like going to apply for social assistance and stuff like that, or committing a crime just because they want to get me into trouble, I will stand up and provide evidence to say that, no, this person is physically capable. They are young. This is what they did in Nigeria. Or if they didn't do anything in Nigeria and they've come here, I've made efforts for them to go to school and improve on their capabilities and qualifications. They refuse. I can show the efforts that I've made, and I can also show the intention of this person to harm me, because their actions will harm me and they knew it, which is why they're doing it. That undertaking is not just on one person. Yes, you are liable for them, but they also have the responsibility to make sure that conduct is in line. So if they intentionally do something that was wrong, I'm not responsible for them. And which is why if I decide to leave that person or kick them out of my house, despite being that 3-year undertaking, I'm still going to go through the family law system to get a divorce from them. The worst case scenario, they can ask me for spousal support. And that's only if I have enough money to pay them under the law, because spousal support is based on income. And the second thing is, if we were only married and living together here, say that people who are married for long, but by the time the person comes here, that they're not actually living together. So we're looking at the cohabitation period. Say we're married 2 years, but we only lived in Canada for 6 months until I started seeing what they were doing. 6-month period is not sufficient for them to bring a spousal support claim against me. They will totally fail. So in such circumstances, if I was to separate from them and they try to get spousal support against me, it will not be in their favor either. So they will have to make the decision to stand up for themselves. If not, they'll be on the street.
Wow.
It's not a straight line. Just because you sign something for someone to be responsible for them doesn't mean there's 100% responsibility for them. It's also circumstantial. The court has the discretion to deviate from the legal principles. That is one thing that the courts always have, right? So, yes, you sponsor them. You're responsible for them by the immigration undertaking that you signed as part of the sponsorship package. However, if you show that the conduct towards you is malicious and is intentional, because they want to cause you harm, then the court will have the discretion to free you to an extent from that responsibility and hold them accountable. Yeah, and you can still get your separate action in terms of family. You can't continue to stay with somebody who is maltreating you, emotionally abusing you, financially abusing you, because they know they have one document against your head. That would be a crime. It means that the immigration system is just against people for sponsoring other people, right? So it cannot be absolute undertaken. It has to be reviewed under the immigration system. But under the family law system, you can always get a separation at any time. The worst case scenario is the person can come after you for spousal support. And the probability of them succeeding on that spousal support claim is based on the circumstances. If they prove it to a larger extent, they will succeed to get some money from you on a monthly basis. If they don't prove it to a larger extent, it's out the window. Even if they come after you for property, the only values of the property that could be subject to any claim is from the time when you guys started living together. If they've lived with you for only 6 months and you don't own a house, the car that you have has a car note on it, my sister, you don't have anything to worry about. If they want to come and share the car loan debt, that's good for them. But in terms of getting the property, it's also based on circumstances. If, say, you own your house and they were living with you in that house, yes, it became a family home. However, if they've only lived with you for 6 months, 1 year, we're looking at just the value for that 1 year. So if it's a house of 500,000, you have a mortgage of 350, meaning that you've only accrued an equity of 150. If you divide it by the number of years that you've owned the house and to determine the value of 1 year, and they will have to prove the claim. So there is nothing like they're going to deal with you under the law. No, you have to speak to a lawyer at that time. The lawyer will listen to your circumstances and tell you what your options will be. Legal advice is always necessary. Nobody should disregard it, because I've seen a lot of people disregard advice from the start and then spend so much time in court, which brings them back to the lawyers. There's a reason why we have lawyers. There's a reason why we have doctors and psychologists and, social media influencers, because everyone has that role. So if you disregard a particular role or the involvement of that person in your life, it could cause you a lot of problems, particularly if you are not sophisticated in that information and process, right? I had a situation where someone came to me. They were separated for about 3 years now, and the man just ignores everything, abandons everything. The woman comes to me and she's like, I don't understand this person. What do I do? I've thought about it up and down. I said, the problem is you're thinking about it on your own. Why are you thinking about something for which you are not an expert? Are you a lawyer? Go speak to a lawyer. pay an hour, 30 minutes, talk, know your options. By the time we're done with that meeting, she had so much clarity. This is a separation from 2023. They have 3 kids. He is a nonchalant person. No response. This is somebody you can email them that the child is dying. They will not reply.
Their child?
Yeah, that is why I tell you that when people talk about abandonment, it's real. However, we did that meeting, and now we're in the court process. This person has become responsive because I told this.
He has become chalant.
Oh, very chalant. And I told her from the start, I said, you're putting too much thought into this. You're giving this person so much power, which they don't have.
Yeah.
So when she got to understand, she was like, that makes total sense. And then I told her, trust me on this. You'll see. By the time we got into the process, I'm not there to beg you. What am I begging him for when I know the process and he doesn't know the process? I just told her, this is step 1. This is what we're going to do. This is who we're filing. This is a timeline. And we'll be moving it forward. Without him, he thought it was going to end because if he doesn't respond, some people think, oh, if I don't respond, they can't move forward. No, you can move forward through the court system if the other person is not responsive, which is why lawyers will tell you how to move forward. If I'm emailing somebody the first time, introducing myself as a lawyer for the other person, and then kind of inviting them to the table, then they ignore me for some reason, thinking I'll go away. I'm not paid to go away. I wasn't trained to go away. Right. I will look for the avenue that allows me to proceed without you. The Canadian court system has so many ways to get a judgment or an order against another person in the absence. That is the disadvantage of not responding to court proceedings. I will get what I want, whether you're there or not. So, if someone is in a tight situation, whether it's because they sponsor the spouse or even they didn't sponsor that person and it's not related to immigration matters, but they're having some kind of experience, speak to a lawyer. I'm going to say something that is not me being, I'm not disregarding diversity. I'm not trying to offend non-African lawyers, but I'll suggest that in the African communities, our people should learn to trust us. And I know that it could stem from, I go to church with this person, and if I tell them my problem, or if I go to consult or use them as my lawyer, they could share that information, or this person knows me in the community, we're in the same association. Those things still happen. White people have it, Asians have it. Everybody has that, interaction socially or whatever. But when you consult with a lawyer who can understand background, who can understand culture and values and tradition, who can relate to your circumstances, it could make it easier. Not in all cases, but majority of the time, it could make it easier. Somebody who is from an African community talking to me as an African-born kid, yes, I didn't spend, adult years in Africa, in Cameroon, but I know because I have aunties, I have people from church. I know what my culture requires of women, of men, how upbringing can influence. And even for kids that were born here, they still have that influence, right? They're not free from it.
Yes.
So if you're telling me what you went through, I know I can understand it. And the options that I'll be giving you will be options that will help to mitigate circumstances, not just getting you an outcome in terms of a court order, but will help you to get that outcome that is long-term, that is sustainable, based on your circumstances. Because your circumstances don't just end when you get the order. It continues. If you get a parenting order when your kids are 5 years old, it's a long time before they become 18. You still have to deal with the other person.
Wow. Yeah,
until those kids are 18, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, you have the court order, but what if that person refuses to pay child support despite the court order? What do? You have the court order, but enforcing it becomes a problem. Yes, you get a parenting order, now I'm talking about somebody always on the other side. They have been kicked out. The wife is refusing them from seeing the kids. They get a court order of parenting, granting them access and parenting time. But every time they're supposed to have that parenting time, the wife says, I don't care. I'm not sending my kids to you. You have the court order that says you should have the kids every Saturday, but she's telling you that do your worst.
Wow.
What do? That is where I come in to say, you know what? I suspect she's not going to comply. Let's put this in place in that court order so that you have options in terms of how to handle those circumstances that she's not
when
compliant.
They come. Yeah.
Right? If he refuses to pay child support, there's this clause that I've suggested for the court to add that will make him pay that child support. Because I suspect already he's not going to want to pay it voluntarily. That is the advantage of, having someone who understands your circumstances. And yes, true, lawyers of non-African descent or upbringing could also have that experience because experiences like that cross across all social barriers. But most times, when you have someone who can understand you, who can speak your language, it helps sometimes emotionally. It helps.
Yeah, it does. It does.
If you come to me and I speak to you in pidgin English, you feel comfortable, first of all.
You feel comfortable, yes. That's true.
Yeah, you're giving me the gist. And I'm feeling the gist. And then now I'm using my, Canadian English to put the gist. Right? On paper. But at least I have it here. Yeah, so.
Wow. Lucy, this has been such an eye-opening episode because some of the information you shared, no clue, no idea, but you've shared so much. I think the main one I took away from this was that whole sponsorship conversation where and how people are really more supported, people have more agency, more power than they realize that they do, and so they don't just have to accept whatever because somebody can revoke. Apparently it's wow, okay, that for me, that's the main thing, because like you said, you probably know people who fell in love after they were thrown a love bomb and they brought someone and it just did not go well. So I was going to say that if one person if somebody is caught up in a situation where they feel like they are not sure of what could happen to them in terms of affording life, we have so many social organizations in our building, so many of them, and they are willing to provide support. There are organizations that deal with housing, organizations that provide furniture, beddings, all of those things for startups. There are organizations that will provide you with funding to start a business, will provide you with some form of assistance while you transition until you can get on your feet. This is a country where we have so many options and resources. It's just asking and finding out where they are. And I will say that our communities have to become comfortable with finding out information. Most time we're always nosy about things that are not relevant. Yes, that's true.
If it's gossip or who has done this, we are good. We will investigate more than FBI. But when it comes to matters that are substantive, we don't ask. If I go now, that Oyubo person is just looking at me. God forbid, I can't do it too. Who concern who? Is that
whose business is it? Why does that matter? Yeah.
When I was in college, I used to volunteer with the Women's Center here in Calgary. I still volunteer with them, but now as a lawyer. I will be there through the peer volunteer program. We were the one, when people come in, we welcome them. If they need like emergency food, we pack bags for them and give them. I did not see many African people. I'll say black people. Most of the African people that I may have seen, maybe Sudanese, because I mean the Sudanese have lived here longer compared to other African immigrants. So I see them a lot as Canadians. But you will see a Chinese person or an Asian person looking sharp. They want that go to. They'll still come and get free food. Because to them, it doesn't concern them whether you look at them A or you look at them B, or the matter of pride will not fit them. But we have pride. Pride, you'll be dying of hunger and lack of knowledge, and you're thinking of what this person would think of you. Will that person help? You get?
Yeah.
Go and ask questions. Become inquisitive. Attend events. Interact. It's not only African food that you need to eat. It's not only African church that you need to go to. It's not only African events that you need to attend. Diversify access, because you are in a society that is diverse. If you wanted to stick to only what you know, stay in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Stay in Cameroon or wherever. Why are you here? But when you come here and you're still at a disadvantage, then it's a problem. And that problem is not even whether somebody sponsored you.
Why are you here?
It's about you not taking steps to make yourself have access. It's a personal thing. It's a personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't leave it to the other person. Sometimes when I see that's separations that I've consulted on or represented on, and you ask, okay, why didn't you go to school at least? Your kids have grown. They were grown a long time ago. Well, I don't know. Where I come from, women don't, after where you come from, you've been in Canada for 10, 20 years, you're still talking about where you come from.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can also blame them. It's a mindset thing, right?
It is,
which is why we're putting so much information into the communities. People are learning, and people are, the eyes are opening. In good ways, sometimes in not so good ways, but at least there's
a movement, and we're moving forward little by little.
Exactly.
We're crawling. We're taking those steps. Lucy, this has been so eye-opening, and you're right. Like, our people, like, as a community, we African immigrants, that pride you mentioned, oh my god, you hit on something very, very, very true. Because regardless of the country, there's that element of what if they see me? What if they recognize me? That, Nigerians will say steez and composure. My steez will just go from here to down here. Like, like, who cares?
In church on Sunday night, or me go and be asking for food.
Or even like they'll be comparing it to life back home. Oh, back home, like I had a house and 3 cars and housemaids, and now I'm here, asking for free food,
You've hit the nail on the head. That comparison of my life before and now is killing us a lot.
It is.
But it's not to our advantage. And regardless of what the situation may have been, if someone is going through circumstances in a relationship, whether it's within a marriage, or they're doing a common law cohabitation relationship, or they're just dating, there is no reason why you should continue taking those circumstances or treatment from the other person, because whatever they have against you could be something that does not really carry weight the way that you're thinking. The first thing you need to do, if there is any idea or doubt, talk to a lawyer first.
Talk to a lawyer.
That lawyer will give you clarity. That clarity will help you make a decision on an informed basis. That clarity will also give you exposure to resources that can help sustain you in the meantime.
Yes.
But nothing is ever worth maltreatment or mistreatment or abuse. No, you have so many options here in Canada. That's why we have a good system. It's not the best, it's not perfect, it's growing, but it's good. It gives you options. Yeah.
Yes. So we have come to the end of our episode today. I feel like I'll have to split this particular episode into two because I didn't want to end it. I'm like, wait, no, what if I had more questions and you were just giving all the, all the juice about these things? Like, thank you again so much, Lucy. You have passed across so much information, so much great, useful information that I hope that, people capitalize on. Thank you again for all the work you do in the community. I really appreciate you for your time. And I feel like I'll probably bring you back as in the employment part of things because, oh my God, that is another place where people are going through it.
Yes.
So once again, thank you, Lucy. Do you have any, would you like to share your contact, where people can follow you, social media, where they can find you?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Sarah, for inviting me to to share this time on your platform. I really feel honored, and I'm glad that, platforms like this are becoming available on an increasing basis, because it helps create that awareness in our communities. It helps our people, and the more information we have out there, it means that the less problems we will have in the future. So I'm grateful to be a guest today. If someone is looking to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram, Diale Mewanu. I am also on LinkedIn as Lucy Diale Mewanu. You can find me on Facebook as Lucy Diale Mewanu. And don't go on TikTok though. But using my name, Lucy Diale Mewanu, you can find me on any social media platform because I use my actual names. If you are not able to locate me on social media, please do contact Osuji Smith Lawyers on 403-283-8018 by phone to get to me. If you do phone my office, they will transfer it to me if I'm available, or they'll give you my email address to send me an email if I'm not in the office. But I can bet that someone will find me on social media.
Once again,
thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Fluffy, thank you.
Awesome.
But thank you for having me.
Thank you again. Thank you so much, Lucy. And for our listeners, thank you so much for your time with us today. I hope you've been able to learn as much as I have. I will be splitting this episode into two because we're almost at 2 hours, but it is so full of value and things that will just broaden your perspective and your mind. So thank you all for being here, and we will see you on the next episode of Afros in the Diaspora.